This is lesson 6.2, Parallelograms. Lesson 6.2, Parallelograms. You do not need to spell it incorrectly because it's written for you right there. Parallelograms. What word do you see there in parallelograms? Excellent, parallel. So, Katie sees grams, but we're going to go with parallel. 6.2, parallelograms. Okay, so when we're talking about parallelograms, a parallelogram is a four-sided figure. So in this lesson and in the next lesson, we're going to talk about four-sided figures. Whoever's clicking their pencil, I need you to stop, please. All right, so there's a couple things to notice about a parallelogram. First of all, so number one, opposite sides are parallel. And so you guys were talking about, you knew the word parallel was in there. It's because the opposite sides are parallel. We have some space down here. Let's go ahead and draw a parallelogram. A parallelogram looks like a slanted rectangle. So if opposite sides are parallel, do you guys remember the symbol for parallel is those arrows? Do you guys remember that? Yeah. So opposite sides are parallel, but then on the other sides, because they are different parallel, we'll put two arrows instead of just one to differentiate between the two. Opposite sides are parallel. What else do you think might be true about opposite sides? They're the same size, right? And so we call same size congruent. So opposite sides are congruent. Opposite sides are congruent. How do we mark congruent things? Not the, okay, yes, that's the congruent symbol. But what about in our diagram? In your diagram, how do you mark the thing? Hash marks, right? So the side that has one arrow, let's put one hash mark as well. So we can say this one and this one are congruent. And then this side is also congruent to this side. Okay, so we can put hash marks as well. That means congruent. The third thing in a parallelogram is that opposite angles are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. So in our diagram, that would look like this angle down here is congruent to this angle up here. Okay, so my diagram's getting a little messy. And then we know that the other two angles are congruent, so we're going to draw two arcs and two arcs. Because if we just draw one, that means they're congruent to each other. So one pair of corners has one arc and another pair of corners has two arcs. The fourth thing we know about a parallelogram is that consecutive angles, what does consecutive mean? Does anybody remember? Good, one beside another. So consecutive angles, excellent, are supplementary. They equal 180. They're supplementary. Let's put 180 in parentheses to remind ourselves. Okay, what that means in my diagram is that this angle and this angle, if I add them together, these two angles, they add up to be 180. Okay, so angles that are beside each other, or this angle and this angle, these add up to be 180. Okay? And the last thing is that the diagonals, which are not drawn, but we'll draw some in a minute in a different diagram, diagonals bisect each other. Diagonals bisect each other. Okay, if your diagonals bisect each other, if we drew parallelogram over here, maybe I should. Can you guys see it over there in the corner? Maybe it's hard to see. I'll draw it up here. If diagonals bisect each other, would you agree that this one is definitely shorter than the other one? Yeah. Right? Okay. So they're not congruent, but these pieces are the same. And then these pieces are the same. What? Yeah, it is the same line, but from here to here is the same as from here to here.
So it stops it.
Yeah. I mean, it does continue on, but it kind of splits it. That's the split mark right there. Okay? All right, so knowing all these things and keeping these things in mind, let's talk about a few examples. Now, when we go through this page, we're only going to do the odds. Okay, so don't go ahead and start doing it even. We're just going to work through the odds. So number one, it has already labeled it for you. If the directions give you side lengths or angle lengths and it's not labeled, your first priority would be to label it. But in number one, it's already labeled for you. Okay? So if AB is 15, let's not even look at what it's asking us to do. If AB is 15, what do we know else about the diagram? DC is also 15, so let's write that in. Okay? If BC is 8, what else do we know about the diagram?
AD is 8.
Good. AD is 8. If angle D is 68, what else do we know? B is also 68, right? Because opposite angles are congruent. B is 68. How might you find angle C?
180 minus 68.
Okay, 180 minus 68. And we all have calculators. What is 180 minus 68?
112.
I have 112. Which means that how much is angle A?
112.
112. Okay? Now we can go over here and answer what they're asking us to do. It's better to fill in your diagram first and then match up what they're asking you to do. Okay? Because then you're not stuck trying to figure things out. So we know that AD we said was 8. DC we said is 15. Angle A was 112. Angle B is 68. And angle C is 112. Good. Questions about number 1? Okay, number 3. Again, let's just look at our diagram. If RS is 27, what else do I know? Katie? Katie? I know, it does sound a lot like Brian. UT is also 27. Good. Okay, if RU is 18, then how much is ST? Brian? Perfect. If UV is 7, from U to V is 7, then Amanda, how much is from V to S?
7.
Excellent. Okay, and then down here, do you guys see where it says RT is 30? You guys see that? So that whole thing is 30. So how much is RV, Kara? If this whole thing is 30, then how much is from R to V? From here to here. Remember they cut each other in half? It's 15. Good. It's 15, which means that V to T is also how much? 15. Okay, so now we can fill in with what they're asking us. UT was 27. ST is 18. VS is 7. And VT is 15. Any questions on number 3? Okay, let's move on to number 5. And now our diagram is not labeled for us, so we need to label all of these things. So label very carefully and try to write small. XY is 15. If we know that XY is 15 before we even go on, what else could we say? Good. WZ is also 15. Okay. Z to X is 52. If W to T is 23, what else is 23? T to Y. Okay. And then they gave me angles. So W, Z, Y. Make sure you're being careful. W, Z, Y, 72. But you don't know that it's half, do you? WX. It's not a property that you know. And I'll show you why in just a minute. Z WT is 59. Okay. So some of you have already started filling in. Go ahead and fill in what you know. We're going to answer the questions. We know ZW is also 15. How much is ZY? What are you guys saying for ZY? Ashley, what did you say for ZY? Okay, well, ZY is the same as WX, right? And how much is WX? No, WX is 22. So ZY is how much? Okay. T to X. Natasha, how much is TX? How much is T to X? What did you say? How'd you get 26 there? Okay, so ZX was 52, so if we cut that in half, that's ZT and TX. So that would be 26. WY. Well, each of those things is 23, right? So how much would it be, Elvis? 46. Okay. Now we have measure of angle TZY. TZY. Anybody know TZY? TZY is here. Okay, that's what Brian said. Brian said that was cut in half. So let's talk about this, guys. Look up at the top. If this up here is 35 and we said that these were the same, then this would also be 35 up here, right? Each of these would be 35. What is 35 plus 35? 70. And didn't they tell me that opposite angles have to be the same? Where are you going? So 70 and 72 are not the same. So you can't just divide evenly. That's not true. Okay, so we do know, though, that this angle right here and this angle, they're alternate interior angles. Right? Because I have these two parallel lines, and I have a transversal, so I have alternate interior angles. Okay, so it is 35. This little one down here is 35. So TW or TZY is 35. So X, Y, Z. How are we going to find X, Y, Z? Anybody have any idea? Bless you. That's this angle right here. How are we going to find X, Y, Z? What do we know about these two right here? They're equal to 180, right? And didn't they tell us that this one is 72? So 180 minus 72. What did you say? 108. Okay, so these two angles that I have in green add up to be 180. They told me that this one is 72, so 180 minus 72 is going to give me this angle Y. So that is 108. I don't know how you got 59. Okay. Okay, angle XYT. Angle XYT. Well, didn't they tell me up here ZWT is 59? Didn't they tell me this one's 59? What do you know about these two? They're congruent because they're alternate interior angles. And so when they're asking me for XWT, we'll get there in just a minute. We know that this one down here is 59. This big angle right here we said was 72, right? This one was 72. And what do we know about these two angles together? 180. So I already have part of this one over here. I have 59 as part of it. So 72 plus 59 plus something else should give me 180. So let's take our 180 and subtract 72 and 59 and see what we're left with. I'm hearing 49. Does anyone else agree with 49?
Yeah.
Okay, 49. So this one up here is 49. And then XYT we said is 59. So there's some work that has to be done. I would figure out all my sides and then I would erase my diagram or redraw it maybe. Okay, erase or redraw it so you don't have 1,000 things in your diagram trying to figure out what's what. Okay, make yourself a note here that we had to deal with alternate interior angles. That's how we were able to get with our angles, as we were talking about alternate interior angles. Put it all the way away, not in your pocket, not between your legs, in your book or on my desk. All right, so let's look at number 7. That one's a little tricky, but we're going to keep working at it. Let's look at number 7. Maybe. I'm getting there. Okay. It says solve for x. What do we know about opposite sides in a parallelogram? They're the same. Julia?
Oh, they're congruent.
Okay.
They're being gives up and equal to each other.
All right. So we have 9x minus 25 equals 5x plus 7. And we can solve that, right? No big deal. Go ahead and take a minute and solve that. Make sure, guys, in your diagram that you mark them congruent, because you get points for marking things congruent in your diagram. All right, what are we getting x to be? 8. Okay. For the sake of time, we're going to just set these equations up, and then I know that you guys can solve them. Okay, so we're just going to set them up to make sure we know how to set them up correctly. Let's look at number 9. Label your diagram first. So we can already set up, if we know that TV is 74, okay, this whole thing, 74, that's how I would label it. WV is 4x plus 1. Well, if WV is 4x plus 1, how much is TW? Elvis?
I put 4x plus 1 squared.
Squared? That means times itself. 4x times 4x? Or do you mean 2 times 4x plus 1?
2 times
2 times 4x plus 1, because there's 2 of them, equals 74. Now, some of you maybe divided 74 by 2, and then set 4x plus 1 equal to, what is that, 36? Is that 36? No. 37. If you set 4x plus 1 equal to 37, that would also give you the same answer. Okay? All right, let's look at, remember, we're just going to set them up. So let's look at number 11. We can't find angle B yet until we find what they've given us to work with. So if you look at angle A and C, what do we know about opposite angles? Opposite angles are equal, right? So I can set up A equal to C. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's set angle A equal to angle C. Solve it out.
Is this kind of what we've been doing, like whenever we first started this class? I feel like this is really familiar.
What do you mean?
The math problems are the same.
Maybe a little bit? Okay, x is 13. So if x is 13, how are we still going to find this angle B? Any ideas? Plug it back in, but that's going to give me A. And are A and B the same? No. Go ahead, Natasha. You can subtract A from 180, right? And that's going to give you angle B. Okay? So what is that? 6 times 13 is, what, 78? 78 minus 15, 63. Someone check my math. 63. So this angle is 63 degrees. And we know that these two make 180. So 180 minus 63 is what?
117.
117. Kyle is ready for that one. Oh, okay. 117. Okay, what are you confused about?
I don't know. I'm still back here at x equals 13.
Okay, so we put 13 back in to this angle A.
Oh,
Okay, and we got angle A to be 63. To find B, we know that A and B together make 180. So we subtracted 63 from 180 degrees. Because angle A and angle B together.
so equals 180.
Right, so if this one's 63, then I just took away 63 from 180. Okay. All right, let's try number 13. Label your diagram with what you've been given.
So we got B to be 117.
What'd you say?
We got B to be
Yes. Yep. So KLH is 134. This one's a little bit tricky. Any ideas how we might start this one? If we know that this angle is 25, what else is 25?
K.
Not all of K, part of K, right? In KL, this bottom one is also 25. Would you guys agree with that? And then we know that these two angles have to add up to be how much? 180. So I could say 4x plus 9 plus 25 plus 134 has to give me 180. Is everyone okay with where that came from? I added this angle plus these two because I know together they make 180. The 134 just what? Okay. Are we still confused? All right, so I'll start this one over. If this angle down here is 25, then we have alternate interior angles. So this one up here is also 25. Okay? 25 and 4x plus 9 make this angle K together. So you have to put these two together to make angle K. They tell me in the directions that KLH is 134. So down here is 134 for this angle. And I know that if I add this angle K and angle L, they equal 180 together. So I added 4x plus 29, 4x plus 29, 25, and 134 all together to make 180.
So the whole angle, I thought it was just the half the angle from where.
What is half of the angle? The 134?
No, that goes 180. Like, I thought, I didn't realize, like, it's
If this is my, look up here, if I redraw this parallelogram, this angle and this angle together make 180. So if you split this one up, you have to take both of these.
Oh,
Okay?
I said find that differently than that.
Yes, there is a different way to do it.
So I just took the 134 out of 180 and equal to 4x plus 9 and 20 plus 25 equal.
Yes, you're doing a lot of extra steps. Okay.